Hi, Henry at Tech Advisor, and this is Dom.
Hi.
You know Dom.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about 5G, particularly 5G in the UK. We technically have three 5G phones here, right?
Sort of.
We have the Galaxy S10 5G from Samsung. We have, what is that?
This is the Oppo Reno 5G, which is actually the same as the Oppo Reno 10 times zoom, but with 5G. And then we've got the OnePlus 7 Pro 5G. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way before everyone in the comments tells me off. Yes, this is technically the 4G model. This is not the 5G model. If it was 5G, I'd say it there. We did have the 5G one in the office. We have used the 5G OnePlus 7 Pro, but we had to send it back. So this is the 4G one, but they're the same phone, except for the 5G.
Hardware on the outside is exactly the same, and we put a link in the description to my findings with the 5G model on the EE network.
Yep.
Cool, all the right combinations of words there. So now we're going to take a look at the hardware, because in the UK there are only a few 5G phones that you can buy, and to be honest, this is most of the ones you can get globally as well.
Yeah.
In the UK on EE you can also get at the moment the LG V50 ThinQ 5G.
Which I saw at MWC early this year. We haven't had a review unit in, but there'll be a link to that video if you want to see what I thought of that.
Okay, cool.
And the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3, I think, is also available.
You can get that on Vodafone in the UK, and then over in the US you can also get the 5G mod, which works with the Moto Z3 or the Moto Z4. We've not seen those. UK represent. So, for now, here is our opinion on the hardware, because these are they look similar. I mean, look at the backgrounds. Look at what we got going on here.
Yeah.
But they are quite different, and there will be different reasons that you should go for both. I mean, if we start with the Samsung one, it's the most expensive one.
Yep.
That's because it's Samsung. Samsung. They put a premium on their phones, but they do normally depreciate in price, whereas like Oppo and OnePlus are kind of cut from the same cloth. They're going to be about a level.
They'll hold their value till the next model comes out next year, probably.
But the difference here is that the Oppo and the OnePlus you mainly be buying on contract. And while it would be sensible for you to do the same with the Samsung, considering the price, it is available in the UK for £1,100, locked to one of those two networks. So it's 300 quid more than like another Samsung flagship, and it's going to be a considerable amount more than those two.
Yep.
It is the only one that has three things: wireless charging, IP68 waterproofing, and a headphone jack. So if any of those or one of those things matter to you, at least you get to see on paper what those several £100 more are getting you.
Yeah, there is. I mean, those are all the kind of luxury flagship-y features, nice to haves, I guess. It is worth saying on waterproofing. I mean, OnePlus at least says the 7 Pro is water resistant. They just haven't got an IP rating.
People have dropped it in buckets and it survived.
It should, in theory, be fine. The Oppo is probably the same, though I'm not sure if they talk about water resistance. But if you want that peace of mind of like knowing there's an IP rating, the Samsung is the only one that does that. Yeah,
and the other thing you'll notice about the design of the Samsung, if we get the camera in there, is that it has a cutout at the top. That is as opposed to a notch, which we've seen being quite quickly phased out after everyone ridiculed it on the iPhone 10 and then went all out and bought one.
You had the year of the notch.
Year of the notch. It's the year of the cutout now, and then year of whatever, because...
well, yeah, so we got the cutout there, which you may like. You lose a little bit of screen real estate for the cameras, but on here, you're going to get moving parts. So let's get both of these going. I'll do them one at a time, actually. That's probably easier. Yeah. So which one am I holding there? That's the OnePlus 7 Pro. So this is probably familiar. We go to selfie. There's Dom on the camera. And we got this.
I don't like that.
Do you not?
No.
I'm a big fan. It's nice. It's compact. And yeah, it's just the camera unit. It is pretty nippy, even for face unlock and stuff like that.
It does have this clever thing as well, that if you drop it, it knows that you've dropped it, and it goes back in, which is quite cool.
So it shouldn't break from dropping it, which is nice. There is a similar thing on the Reno, but with a little twist.
I prefer this because it's dumber.
Which is fair. Like, I'm all for that. Yeah, so you'll note, this whole bit on the top tilts out at an angle.
For want of a better term, the shark fin.
Yes. It's a slightly slower mechanism, I think, just a tiny bit, but not a lot. There are benefits you get from here. One is that the earpiece, the audio piece, is actually in that fin. That's what rises up as well.
Yeah, whereas on both these phones, the earpiece is in the very top bezel.
Yeah, so they have to give up a little bit of bezel space to fit the speaker in. You'll also, on the back here, we've got a flash module built into the fin, so that kind of rises up as well.
You might be able to see from up here, but maybe not. Because of those mechanisms, not only are they potentially open to breaking, but they do kind of fill with dust.
Yeah, they get very dusty. The OnePlus is exactly the same. So that is one thing. Never enough that I've noticed it affect video or photo quality, but enough that it does rise up and you go, oh, that's a bit.
And then, so that means that the Oppo and the OnePlus are they only have single front cameras, right?
Yes, yeah. They've both got single lenses, 16 or 32 megapixel, I can't remember.
Many megapixels.
More than you need.
The Samsung is the one that has 2. So you've got a 10 and an 8 there.
Yep.
And the 8 is for depth sensing, so you're going to get better quality, so they say, depth shots on your images, whereas if they are done on these phones, it'll be software-based.
Yep. But if we flip it over and talk cameras, I feel like maybe these two might be more exciting.
We'll see. We'll see.
So
what about Oppo? That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's quite different.
These both have triple rear camera setups going on here. One nice thing the Oppo, I'll just note while we're talking about it, is like it's totally flush with the body, which is so rare in a phone of this kind of size.
The only other flagship at the moment with a flush camera is the LG G8.
Yes.
Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but
I can't remember if the V50 does.
Good point.
But yeah, it's nice. It's a little thing, and there's a tiny little, again, hard to see. There's a tiny little like nubbin bit there.
Little tech nipple.
Little phone nipple that means when it rests, it won't scratch the lens. It does mean it rocks a little bit around, but that's a nice like workout. Anyway, cameras, right? These two are broadly similar, and at first there's not much to tell apart. They've both got actually the same 48 megapixel main sensor, which they'll do for their main shooting. They've both then got a wide angle and a telephoto, but that's where they begin to pull apart. So I like the 7 Pro. It's got a 3 times optical zoom, and it's 8 megapixels. But the Reno has a 13 megapixel 5 times optical zoom. Might throw you off because I said this was the 4G model is called the 10 times zoom, but it's got a 5 times zoom camera. That's because they're doing it. I mean, it's a really weird branding decision.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's a 5 times optical lens, but they use tech to let it go up to 10 times with good quality photos. But it actually goes up to 60 times. If you wanted to try and zoom in.
Yeah. So I mean, we would have included had Huawei done a P30.
Yes.
Pro 5G, that would have been here as well. But it's a similar effect you get. And while Huawei have got the clout and the cash to spray that everywhere, Oppo it holds a candle to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have a P30 with us right now to show you. I've done some side-by-side comparisons with the Reno and the P30 Pro, and they were very comparable. And actually, I would generally say I tended to prefer the detail and the color and the tone that you got on the Reno camera, at least on the zoom shots. I think overall the Huawei camera is better, but for those zoom photos, actually the Reno did edge it. The only thing I'd say is that in practice, as someone who's say that I use the 7 Pro as my main phone and have used it since it launched, so what, 2 or 3 months, I never ever use the zoom lens.
Yeah.
And I don't think having an extra 5 times would make me use it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, also 3 cameras on the back of the S10 5G. You've got 12 main, 12 telephoto megapixels we're talking, and 16 megapixel ultra wide as well, which is pretty great. You get to do things like, what can we do here? When you're looking at a normal subject, yeah, you can zoom in, but then also hit that one and you get a huge wide angle there, which is great for landscapes, and you can do it on the selfie camera as well. There is actually a little trick. It's not technically wide angle. It does it anyway. So that's nice of Samsung. And yeah, if you prefer the camera module going that way instead of that way, I don't know, that might bother you.
I mean, yeah, and I think it is worth saying one thing. If you know cameras, you may know this already, but like these two, like I said, both have a 48 megapixel main lens, and I think you said it was 12 on the Samsung, which may sound like, well, these are clearly going to be way better cameras. That isn't really the case.
It's not really the case. Yeah, I mean, you can throw your megapixels around, but if your software processing can't keep up with it, as the famous saying goes, then get out of town. All of these cameras are great, so I mean, we wouldn't worry about that too much. It's going to be down more to the price of the thing.
Right. So one of the other big differentiators between these 3 phones that's really going to pull one of them out is screens.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to tell this on camera, really.
No.
But one of the loveliest things about the 7 Pro, one of the big selling points, is it has a 90 Hz refresh rate in that lovely 1440p AMOLED display. Basically, this is the best screen in a smartphone in the world right now.
Most smartphones, as we record exclusively, pretty much, apart from the Razer phone, which is not here and does not have 5G, have 60 hertz refresh rates. So you can't tell probably, but this is incredibly smooth. It sounds like a nerdy thing to...
It is a nerdy thing to notice.
It is a nerdy thing, but also once you actually use it, and particularly
it's hard to go back.
all those infinite timelines you enjoy scrolling through, you do notice that it is just that much smoother and less... That's not stuttery.
No.
You can tell.
It's just slightly different. And there are high refresh rate phones out there in the gaming market. I don't think any of them are AMOLED yet. I think this is the only high refresh rate AMOLED panel. I'm not sure.
It's really nice.
And it's also that resolution, 1440p. I think that's the same in the Samsung, I believe.
Yeah, it's 1440p. Yeah.
The Reno is only 1080p.
Okay. Well, it's still a nice.
It's still a nice screen. It's still AMOLED. It's a lovely display. I don't want to sound like I'm saying it was a bad panel. It's a very nice screen, and if you're not a screen nerd, you're definitely not going to notice, and you're definitely going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
If you are a screen nerd, the OnePlus wins comfortably.
So, of course, we all look at lots of things on our phones, but if you are looking in particular for something to stare at all day long, whether that's colour reproduction, photography especially, while I do like the OnePlus's refresh rate, the Samsung AMOLEDs are still class leading.
Yep.
So on that big, beautiful screen, you're probably going to also want to consider what the software's like, and that's where these three phones do differ quite substantially.
Yeah, I think this is the one area where they really are each quite different to the other.
You've probably got a quite strong opinion. Let us know which one you would go for. But so Samsung has, in my opinion, greatly improved its software recently since it's changed its skin to One UI from the old Samsung experience.
Yep.
It looks way better. It just makes a lot more sense. Menus just do things that you'd expect them to. It does little things, just like put a little bit of extra space at the top of the screen just because it knows your thumb isn't like 12 inches long. And also it just looks a lot better. It runs nice and you get a lot of decent security updates in my experience. But it does change quite a lot from Android 9 Pie, which these phones all do run. Yep. And if you like a bit of stock, you're going to want to go for...
the OnePlus. So yeah, if stock is your bag, certainly if you've come from a Pixel phone, anything like that, and you're a fan of that classic Android look, OnePlus is the place to be. Basically what OnePlus runs, it's called Oxygen OS. It's stock plus.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff you get, in the same way that actually when you run a Pixel, it's not true stock, it's not the same stuff Google ships out to Nokia and other manufacturers. It has their own tweaks that make it perfect for Pixel phones, and that's basically what you're getting with Oxygen. Yeah. It's stock Android with a few little touches here and there. Like they had dark mode before the sort of stock came with it, and it's got more customizable settings and color options and all this kind of stuff. There's now sort of a Zen mode where you can turn off notifications with a lot of customizability and stuff like that. And it's just beautiful, really easy to use, simple to navigate. I think if you're coming from iOS, I think people tend to find stock Android a bit hard to actually adapt to from iOS.
Well, speaking of which, that might be why you like Oppo.
Exactly.
They have actually changed it quite a lot since we've started reviewing Oppo phones. But Oppo, I mean, they used to not have an app drawer, but the phones do come default. Am I right with the iOS style grid of apps?
Yes.
And Chinese software in general does tend to, not wrongly, copy iOS. As a Chinese manufacturer itself, OnePlus has gone the other way by aping a lot of what Google's doing.
Yeah. I mean, Oppo, I think, is in the same boat as what you're saying with Samsung, where it's improved. Like, the Oppo OS is just so much improved over the past year or two, at least to Western tastes. I still would say it's my least favourite OS out of the three. Yeah. It's not quite there yet. It still feels a little bit clunky. It feels a bit like using a Huawei phone a couple of years ago, where you could see all the potential, but you could see they're trying to hedge their bets between Android and iOS design principles. And it feels a bit awkward and in between.
But also it's a Chinese company that's trying to transition to the West, and there will be hiccups because, I mean, the stuff that they were doing before was perfect for their home market, where you have multiple app stores and different wants and needs. So yeah, we'd probably go for the Oxygen OS on the OnePlus side of things, but I mean, if you want to save even more money, then Oppo's not bad either. So over in the States, you got your four main carriers are going to be delving into 5G, where you can definitely get the Samsung, and you might be able to get the OnePlus.
No, not at the moment. Ooh. Eventually, hopefully, but not right now.
Can't get it. So UK viewers, lucky you, you can get the S10 5G on EE or Vodafone. I've been testing it personally on Vodafone, and then those two, EE.
Yeah, both on EE.
Yeah. So EE's got a better range at the moment. I had a look at the OnePlus 7 Pro 5G on EE, and I had a better experience on EE personally than I have on Vodafone. Vodafone's network, technically speaking, is even younger. But I did actually find that when I strayed into a 5G area just up the road from here, an iPhone 8 on a Vodafone 4G contract actually got better speeds by 100 megabits
Yeah.
than the 5G signal on this phone got. You still get an incredibly quick connection, and it's one of the only ways to get this phone. So if you're really all about the 5G vibe, then you might want to go for it. But as it stands, didn't see too much difference.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've only used EE, not Vodafone, but I have found really fast speeds. I've equally found those speeds haven't really affected what I actually use my phone for. I'm not streaming 4K video on the go all that often, so the faster speeds haven't helped that much. I've also noticed a few more times than I would on 4G where I just seem to have no internet at all, where it says it's connected to 5G, but I'm just getting basically nil speed and nothing will work. Not all the time, it is sporadic. Yeah. I don't want to make it sound like it's broken. It's just every now and then that has happened. And the other thing I actually just want to say, because you kind of touched on it there, and I don't think we said earlier, with the Samsung, this model is 5G exclusive. If you like the look of this particular set of hardware, you can only get it on 5G, whereas these are exactly the same whether you buy them 5G or 4G. Like, you're getting the same phone, it's just a 5G module in there.
Yeah.
So if you like the look of these phones, you can get them without committing to 5G.
Yeah,
plans.
Exactly. Good point. Whereas, this 5G model is larger with a bigger battery and an extra time of flight sensor on the camera compared to the S10 Plus, which is its closest S10 cousin. Should you get them? Dom's had some funny experiences on the E network. I haven't, but price-wise, as we record in July of 2019, I don't think it's worth it at the moment.
No.
Unless you really do want this sparkly Samsung phone. Which one would you buy with your own money?
If I was going to get one of these three, hands down the 7 Pro.
Hands down.
I mean, it's quite close to the Reno, but I think little touches like the. I prefer the OnePlus software, and I love the look of the phone. I love the hardware. I love that blue color, and it's just that much cheaper than the Samsung to pick up on contract that I think it edges the Samsung for me. That I wouldn't personally want to spend that much, 300 quid extra for wireless charging.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, it's a lot more money. It's probably more than 300 quid actually. But we don't quite know yet because you can't buy this off contract.
I'm not aware of being able to, but I might be wrong.
So you get lots of things like the in-screen fingerprint sensor. I would probably buy the Samsung if I could afford it. I really like what Samsung's done with One UI. I really like the fact you've still got a headphone jack. And I quite like the way that they process their photos. But we're not all made of £1,200 to drop on shiny phones. No. So as it stands, maybe your advice at the moment would be we buy the OnePlus 7 Pro, but just this 4G version.
Yeah.
So we've pretty much covered off what you can get and expect from these 3 5G phones. There are 3 of the 5 or so you can get in the UK at the moment. Let us know what we could have told you in the comments. We can continue the conversation down here. And thanks for watching.
Yeah. Cheers. Like and subscribe and all that.
Because while I do like the refresh rate on the Samsung, I do...
On the OnePlus.